Guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Sorry, we're a little bit late. Computer issues sometimes happen, but we're all
Skynet's
here.
gone live.
We're doing a live hangout with our Nerdarchy fan Chris. One of our Patreon level rewards is essentially a paid hangout with Nerdarchy. The conversation is directed entirely by the Patreon subscribers that get in on it. Chris is our first one to go live with this.
Our
So
first NAG of the NAG member. So that's cool. It's awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Chris, we were talking off air, and you'd wanted to briefly say something. So over to you, sir.
All right. Well, I wanted to say how tickled I am that we're even doing this. It's a wonderful opportunity to spend some time live with you guys. And for all the folks who are watching this, I just want to say how enthusiastically I think that Nerdarchy and the Nerdarchists are worth investing in. They are building an amazing community. They are creating original content. They are providing a lot of concepts and ideas. They're going over the prats and pitfalls of what it means to be a DM and to play this game. And I think that of all the guys that are out there, all the people who are trying to do this, there's just something about the chemistry between you guys and the way that you're trying to do it that just is very accessible. And so I just want to say thank you, and I want to encourage people out there to patronize you in a good way, and and to invest in as much as any one of us can in what you are doing. You're leading us. We're building the community together. It's a fantastic opportunity to talk about a hobby that just has the opportunity to engage a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and they have a lot of fun with it. So thank you.
It's something that's near and dear to our hearts, and there's a lot of people out there that they've turned to gaming because, let's face it, we're oddballs, we're weird, we're not the social norms, and yeah, I've known people that I've gamed with that were more in the popular crowd, but they always hid the fact that they gamed and they wouldn't talk about it. I've always been one that, I'll be loud, I'll be proud about it. I'm a gamer, I'm weird. It's who I am. It's who I'll always be. I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be one of those, runners with the pack. So,
hey, counterpoint, nerd culture is now pop culture. I don't know if you've missed what's been going on for the last almost 10 years, like easily 5. But with the dawn of, so video games, Magic the Gathering, and the Big Bang Theory has popularized geek culture to become pop culture. So really, like now, being geeky and nerdy is to be in the mainstream. Like, all right, like being in being dating and stuff, and online dating is normalized nowadays. You wouldn't know. You would be shocked by how many attractive women talk about being a geek or a nerd in their profile, and now it's gone from a thing you hide under the rug to a thing that people wear as a badge of honor, and it's like cred or something these days.
No, so, I'm still, I'll be 38 this summer. I'm used to the fact that the popular people are the ones that sit back and want to watch a boatload of sports, and I just ain't got time for that. I don't care about the sports game that's being played. I'll root for the local Philly teams and what have you, but that's as far as I really go. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, Chris, I'm curious. So, do you have any sort of more mainstream fandoms that aren't like nerd hobby or role-playing game related?
I think the most mainstream I get is sort of Star Trek, Star Wars.
It's still geeky back in the day. I mean, let's be.
I've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm not all that into The Walking Dead, and I do not like The Big Bang Theory at all. That's my son Harry. Harry,
yeah.
The internet.
What? Oh, hi, internet.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Harry.
These are the Nerdarchists, yes.
Okay, so good news for you. If you want to get into Game of Thrones, I have season 1 through 5.
Okay.
So.
Good luck and Godspeed. Go for it. Yeah, if you like to get constantly attached to characters, like, oh man, I really want to see this character develop. Dead. Yeah, that's Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, Harry. I think I said this on Facebook the other day. He just DM'd his first game a Sunday ago, and yeah.
Right, for the graduation celebration. Yeah.
They got through, mostly character creation, and they had a little hiccups there, but everyone was very enthusiastic about the game, and they're going to come back again for further sessions.
Cool.
So basically, that session 1 was session 0.
Yes.
Really.
Session 0 and a dabbling into the game. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the way it goes.
Well, I mean, for new players too, like, what better opportunity than to get everyone in the room together and, like, they can kind of work on party balance and cohesion. Like, you don't always need it, but for newer players, filling the roles is much more important because their understanding of the rules is more tenuous, which makes things a lot more lethal in a way. And then also, too, like, you have more senior experienced players that can help you guide you building your character out.
And I also think it's important for new DMs so that they can make sure that the players are not creating problems that he's not able to deal with. I've recently joined a game that is being run by a first-time DM, and some of us at the table are seriously experienced players. Most of them have been playing for 7+ years, and some of the character concepts that are put forward are presenting challenges for her that she just doesn't know how to completely deal with. It's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to worry about this because that character automatically is going to have the solution at hand. So it's always good to factor those kind of things in. And we didn't do a session 0 that we just showed up with characters that were made, and she gave the thumbs up to all of them. So
yeah. I think that's one of the most important lessons I've learned from Nerdarchy is the importance of a session 0 and doing that pre-gaming development so that as the person leading the game, sort of setting up the context and the framework, that you're providing something that your players actually want to engage in, and that your players understand, okay, this is the environment that I'm in, here are some of the expectations, here are some of the things I'm going to get to do, and here are some of the boundaries I might be able to push, or here's some of the things that might get pushed back on me. If you don't do that, you set yourself up for some conflict or problems down the road. So I love that message from Nerdarchy. So
yeah, I mean, it's important to, like, just fund and for the most part. I know some people are very almost mercenary about their gaming groups to where they only go to do this one activity, but I like the idea of a gaming group that I could actually just like all the people that I game with and maybe do some activities that aren't around rolling funny shaped dice too, like going to the movies or grabbing a beer or some food.
I'm fairly easygoing type of personality, and almost every single person that I've gamed with is somebody that, if we weren't playing D&D or another role-playing game, I would have no problems hanging out with, shooting the shit, playing board games, whatever have you. It's just those are the kind of people that are into the hobby. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, why not? They're not boon companions, all of them. They're not someone that I would say, okay, till the end of days type of situation. But for the most part, yeah, hang out for a weekend camping trip or a board game night. Yeah.
Actually, here's an interesting query to put forward. So if role-playing games didn't exist, right, just wiped the earth, what would be the thing, do you think, that you would consume the bulk of your time otherwise? Like, what interest or endeavor would you get up to if that like 10 hours a week or whatever goes into gaming is open and free? What would you be doing?
Well, I read and I write a lot.
Okay,
most
cool.
of my writing now is writing games. That's what I've converted my writing time into. I do have a career outside of all of this that right now isn't consuming a lot of time, has the potential to begin consuming a lot of time. So I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have an opportunity to do a lot of writing and potentially create games that other people are interested in playing. And so I'm doing it right now while I have the time and the chance to do it.
Yeah, it makes me a little curious as to what you do. Like, maybe I'm thinking educator or whatever, playing my Sherlock Holmes guessing game here.
I work on staff for my church. I'm
Okay.
the guy who comes and visits you when you're in the hospital. You don't want to see me, basically,
Okay.
because when I'm in your life,
You're the angel of death.
so
that's
Yeah.
that's
Are
a
you
hard
like
job.
chaplain?
well,
So is that like a chaplain? Is that?
yeah, unofficial. Yeah, I cannot use the term chaplain because that's a term that comes with degree work and ordination work that I haven't done yet. I'm on track to do it one day, maybe. I'll get those credentials if everything keeps going the way it's going. That'll be neat. And then my focus will change. But right now, I've got the opportunity to invest myself into things that are a lot of fun, and hopefully can be fun for other people. So
I definitely hear you on the reading side of that kind of question. With the investment of time that I've put into Nerdarchy and all the other things going on in my life, I find that lately I don't have a lot of time to read. But who or what is it that you find is your direction in regards to reading?
oh my goodness, probably my earliest influence is Ray Bradbury, hands down.
Okay.
You cannot beat him for a short story author, I think. He was very influential early on in my age. Dandelion Wine is my go-to book. It's one that I go back to time and time again for inspiration, and just the way Bradbury structures short stories. Asimov, of course, Heinlein, Poe, all the classics there. But also Shakespeare. You got to give credit to Shakespeare.
It takes a certain person to be able to get comfy with Shakespeare. I've read quite a lot, but there's a lot out there, so I still have a ways to go to get through it all.
Well, the stories are timeless. Like, it's like
They are.
the conflicts haven't really changed. It's just the context has changed. It's in present day and outer space. The reason why the first Avenger movie was so great is because the story characters or people that happen to be superheroes, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. So Shakespeare. Also Dostoevsky. Sure, Shakespeare and Dostoevsky kind of go hand in hand, believe it or not. If you want to get into sort of the very dry, absurdist, and cynical side of human nature, I think Dostoevsky is one that you have to get into.
Cynicism, eh? Yeah. Tell me more.
I think there's something wrong with my liver. Notes from the underground that'll have some meaning. But I mean, I try to read just a lot of stuff. I've never really gotten into another ding to my nerd cred. I don't think I've ever read Salvatore.
Well, I mean, for years I flouted Salvatore's writings. I read everything that he put his name on, and I just sadly I just don't think it's held up.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of gone back in a circle to some of the old plot threads, and Salvatore was gifted with the novel to bring over Forgotten Realms in from 3rd edition to 4th edition, and he had to do it over the span of a time, and he wrote a single novel, and like I think it's the worst novel that I've read by Salvatore because he was so limited on word count. Essentially, he literally allowed characters to die in a passing of time without even a mention, and it's like, how can you do this? It's just I was
when you've been writing about these characters for like over a decade, and it's like in less than a paragraph that's and they're dead. Moving on.
It literally was 100 years passes, and there wasn't a mention of, well, I'm going to go back and talk to this human that I was friends with, that in no way, shape, or form has the ability to have survived beyond this. I'm like, so I've sadly given up on my my Drizzt love. I feel free to berate me in the comments, people. Those of you that still love Salvatore, it's a matter of time at this point in time. But yeah,
it's a law. My players know that I have a rule: you cannot play a male Drow Ranger who wields dual weapons. Something will fall on your head.
See, I'd have no problem.
I would much rather.
I have no problem allowing at the table as long as you are making yourself different, either in look and personality. If you're trying to just be Drizzt, or Drizzt, however you want to pronounce it, I'm old school with the ZZIT kind of pronunciation. I'll let people play what they want to play.
So here's the thing. Okay, so it is kind of hokey for someone to do that, but you know how, like, in a way, imitation is your first attempt at doing a thing, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for new players, like maybe they're a teenager or something like that, I would be a little more forgiving. Maybe, but it's like, if it's like, dude, you're 30 or 50 years old, why are you doing this? That's a little different. But like, I think for like a kid or someone, someone that's new to the hobby, I think that's okay, because that's how you do learn to do things. Like the first attempts at drawing are trying to copy things or erase them. So that's how people learn and grow.
I think it really isn't a matter of age. What I've discovered is not a matter of age; it's a matter of experience. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
The teenagers that I play with, I'm very proud of, because they're incredibly creative, and they're fantastic role players. They bring a lot of fun to the table, a lot of antics, and I have thrown my teens, my own flesh and blood, as well as the cadre of friends that they bring in with them. I've thrown them into a lot of different situations. For example, just 2 weeks ago, we played a game where it was 1920s America in Nevada, but it was high fantasy in context, so they could play Dragon if they want. There was magic and everything like that, but I let them sort of mash things up timeline-wise. So, for example, the hook was they were gangsters, and so they're running in their like big Lincoln K car, right? And they have their bounty, the person they were supposed to return to a guild. They have Leroy Jenkins, their bounty, in the trunk of their car. Yeah, I always use little things that are familiar. So their job was to kidnap Leroy Jenkins and return him to the guild, right? For an enormous sum of money. And so they're gangsters. They're dressed in pinstripe suits. They're driving in a car, but they're also wielding magic. And they end up lost on this road in 1920s Nevada, and it ends up in a fog that ends with they're in a ghost town. They're in a western ghost town where everyone thinks it's 100 years earlier. My daughter is playing Alice Roosevelt, who was the daughter of Franklin Roosevelt, so she technically even isn't even born yet. Like, I really don't care. It's like, so long as you get into your character, you know who he or she is, and you have the desire to engage in the game and express yourself through it, go for it. So we sort of bashed this thing together, and we had a lot of fun with it. We definitely had a lot of fun with just sort of mixing things up and saying, well, you know what, we don't really have to adhere to things making sense.
So you're doing there's a term for that where you take anachronism and just playing around with timelines and things like that. But now, was that like a one shot, or is that like just a one arc campaign arc, or is this a campaign that's going to be ongoing?
I intended it to be something of a one shot. I tend to make my games a little bit too big and too deep, I should say, for it to be a one shot. I think we need like 2 more sessions to finish it up. It's not intended to be a very long game. It's not intended to be like a campaign setting, although it's something that we can come back to if we want to. they really liked it. They're like, Dad, we had a lot of fun with this. Let's do it again sometime. I'm like, well, yeah, of course. You've got a Tommy gun. My son was playing a half-orc barbarian, dual-wielding Tommy gun. Or what did he have? He had some sort of like Browning machine gun.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Now the problem is they were fighting. The things that they were fighting against initially were ghosts, so their weapons were doing like nil damage to what was going on around them. And the purpose behind that was, initially, this isn't going to be about combat. I want you to think through your circumstances and think through what's going on here. And then we'll get into the high action. So, can't say too much because if they watch this, I'll give away a game. So I got to stop there.
Yeah.
So,
but the challenge of that weapons you use, but the only thing is, if someone's using similar, so like if your hit point resource runs out, you're just going to be dead, and it's going to happen quick. So it's an interesting thing.
Well, I put them up against some Hellhounds, and the Hellhounds were a challenge for them because I used pack tactics against them. The Browning machine gun ultimately was able to do enough damage to I think the lead Hellhound that it drove the other ones off. I mean, these things are vicious, but they're also not stupid.
Right.
So they had to push a car out of a garage and through the courtyard of an abandoned mansion. I was trying to lure them into the mansion. They weren't. Talk about players, going in directions you don't want. I was trying to lure them into the mansion. They're like, no, we're just going to
completely going off the rails.
And it was fine. They were just like, no, we're going to steal the guy's car and just head back to Las Vegas because that's the way they were trying to go. So they did manage to steal the guy's car. The Hellhounds set it on fire, and so it was kind of burnt up, but it was still functional. And so they take off to Las Vegas again, but they get lost in that fog, and they end up coming right back around to where they started. All right, I'm not letting you go that easy. So that was a fun situation.
So getting lost in the fog, was that like a survival check at disadvantage or something that you had to make to make that determination?
Well, they didn't even try. They were just like, okay, we're driving. And so I say, okay, you drive for what seems to be some time, and you come to a fork in the road. And that's exactly how the game started. I said, you're driving along, your car, you notice, is beginning to run out of gas and it's starting to overheat because you've been driving through the dry, hot desert night all night long trying to get to your destination, and you come to a fork in the road. And the sign says, to the left, Las Vegas, 100 miles, and then Point Pleasant is the name of the town. The Mystery of Point Pleasant, the name of the game. So Point Pleasant to the right, like 1, 2, 3 miles, however many I said. I'm like, well, what do you do? And they're like, oh, okay, Las Vegas is too far away. We better go right to see if we can get some gas and water for the car. All right. So you head in, and that's when they end up in this town. Things unfold. They decide to hijack this guy's car and make their getaway, and they just get trapped in this magical fog that brings them right back to that starting point and leaves them right back in town. So they didn't even try to navigate out of the situation. They're just, the reaction was, okay, this is a magical fog. None of them were playing arcane characters. So they just sort of accepted that they were in circumstances where they're like, okay, we're probably not going to be able to get out of this until we find out more of what's going on. We got to go back and talk to the people in town. So they go back and they, go and talk to the people in town more than what they had before. And then they begin to learn, oh, things aren't quite right. One of them orders a drink from the bartender, and the bartender pours him a drink, but when he drinks it, it doesn't feel like he's drank anything at all. And then that's when they begin little things like that, it begins to occur to them that, oh, they're in a ghost town. The ghosts really believe that it's real, that they're really there. Adding some
you basically Sixth Sensed them, pretty much. You pulled the Sixth Sense sort of flat thread.
I need a charger. Okay. Right now. Okay. Something I can plug into the PC. So yeah, I Sixth Sensed them, and I brought that in. Plug it in for me.
Yeah, but that's cool. Like, I mean, not maybe that you were even thinking about it, but the idea of like having these. I'm sure that other popular things have been done before, where like the ghost that doesn't really realize or haven't let go of the idea that they're no longer alive, no clue.
Well, and that's a part of reading the Masu manual and saying, okay, ghosts hang out because they something, they left something unaccomplished in life, and it's anchoring them to the material plane or to a certain reality. So here, the setup is, here you have a whole town where the whole town has unfinished business. They let something happen, and they're so guilt-ridden over it that they can't let themselves go. And now these three people wander in, and here's an opportunity to maybe rectify the situation. Can they convince these three wanderers to do something on their behalf, and can it be done?
It sounds like a really interesting campaign. It'd be something that would be pretty cool to actually check out or actually play in. As you said, it sounds like everyone's having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
So you'll have to.
You know what? It kind of makes me think of. It kind of makes me think of there was that Ghost Walk campaign setting for 3rd edition or 3.5. That whole idea was you played a ghost and interacted with the world there, but that had like a bunch of rules for being sort of ethereal ghost creature. Yeah.
The Ghost Walk book was actually really cool. I toyed around with that for a little while with a campaign with the group here.
You guys did a video on that, right?
I don't think we talked about that specifically, because that was a 3rd edition, and I don't think we probably talked most on Dash. So.
Because I did start one game off where all the players were dead. And the main antagonist comes along and sort of mocks them and resurrects them just because she's not done having fun with them yet. But the process of resurrection that she uses goes a little haywire. So what I did is I had all the players, I turned out the lights, and I had the players close their eyes as I'm describing the whole the whole sensation of them being resurrected. And as I'm doing that, I'm taking their character sheets and I'm moving around to the other players. So when they resurrect, they have their soul is now in some other player's body. So you have the mind of a warlock, but now you're in the ranger's body. Because they decided in their character creation that they were really going to like min-max optimize, super optimize their characters. I'm like, oh, that's great. This is going to work really, really well for this game. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to be super. And now they have bodies that work against what they know in their soul and in their mind. So
that is hilarious.
It was the whole, they hated me. Yeah. And it was the whole process of, okay, you have to now backtrack. Why were you dead? Who is this person who resurrected you? And now you have to backtrack all your steps, because one of the side effects, of course, is, and what makes the game work, is you have short-term memory loss. Like the last 5 days, you can't remember. Now you have to backtrack, follow your steps, and I tried to make it as comedic as possible, sort of like a comedy of errors, where as they backtrack and successfully...
Like a Shakespeare play.
Yeah, exactly. As they successfully unravel what they had been doing, where they had been going, and what they had been unraveling, that they put the pieces together, that they're actually quite horrible people.
So I'm curious, like, so after the initial shock of like my Uber character that I just made after off, did you end up having a really good time even with these ineffectual characters?
Yes, they had a great time. At the very end, they had this big set piece where they're fighting the main antagonist. It's in this huge relic of a building, and this enormous bronze titan, like a Spartan, like the Colossus of Rhodes type thing. The statue is moving and it's opening up this interdimensional portal. And they're trying to stop the antagonist from making this happen. And in the process of trying to stop the antagonist, they actually have the ability to switch their souls back to their proper bodies. Yeah, because there's the MacGuffin thing. You know, the thing that resurrected them is also the MacGuffin that powers this Titan that opens this portal. So they figured out pretty quickly, oh, if we get our hands on this, we can switch our bodies back just in time for the big fight at the end. And so at the very end, they get back into their proper selves. They go through the shock of recovering from that, and there's this epic fight inside and around this 400-foot tall bronze statue that is slowly and meticulously opening up this portal that's right under its. I placed it right under the city of Sharn, deep, deep, deep down in the bowels of Sharn is where this is an Eberron campaign, and it was actually a precursor to another campaign where their characters get sucked through this portal and they end up in this completely different world, completely now cut off from their previous lives, and they have to start their lives over again in this new society, in this new setting. But it was the idea that at the very end, just when they needed it the most, they got to be who they wanted to play and have this big epic fight. And it worked. It just worked. Because they fought well, my antagonist fought well, and we worked together and we created a scene that I think we, till to this day, we just remember and go, yeah, that one was good.
That's what RPGs are all about, is those things that you talk about for a decade past or more, because we definitely have things that probably go back 15 to 20 years or whatever from our things as well.
We absolutely have those kind of stories. I mean, we actually recorded a video this past weekend talking about one of those memories. So it's pretty cool. So is there anything that you want to ask of us, Chris? Opinions or guidance, or do you want to direct us in a certain direction?
You know what? I wouldn't even dare. And here's why. You guys, like I said, you have a chemistry. You're doing everything that I would think or ask you to do way ahead of me anyway. It's like there's no way I can say, oh, I want you to do this, or I think you should go to this direction. You guys are doing it. You're on it.
I mean, for this video, are there any questions? Is there something happening in a game that you want some feedback on? Is there, hey, would you be willing to do a video on such and such? Any of that kind of stuff. I mean.
Okay. Okay. I've got a game that I got a couple minutes here. I've got a game that I'm putting together for. It's going to be an online game. It's going to be play by text.
Okay.
That's where most of my playing takes place. There's some that takes place on the table, some over Skype, but most of it takes place play by text.
Okay.
I have people who are really invested in 4E.
All right.
I want to learn 5E. And I am trying to find a hook. I have sort of the image of a game where they get sent. It's a low magic world. Okay. They get sent by their ruler. I think of it as it's sort of like an autocratic setting where there's a king. Let's call him Creon, and it's on the cusp of this nation's industrial revolution. And through his augurs or spies or wise men or whatever, mind you, they learn that there's an island where there's just a lot of magic activity, something that was very, very, very unusual for this world. And so out of greed and lust for power, he sends these people to this island to find out what magic artifacts might be there, and of course bring them back. Okay. What I want to do to them, though, is sort of an Aliens episode where they think they're there on a quest to just retrieve some alien artifacts, but what they end up bringing back with them are slotty eggs that then
That's great.
begin to infest the population, and like maybe one of the first victims is the king himself. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the black or the gray ones can shapeshift.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read the slot, but I definitely think that it's those higher tiers that have that ability.
Higher tiers can shapeshift, so there's opportunity for them like to infiltrate the inner circle of the leadership of this country very quickly, and maybe even turn it into a thing where you've got on one level, you've got this infestation that's going on in the background, and it's getting worse as time goes on. But in the for the characters, their immediacy is that they've been implicated or accused of being implicated in a plot to overthrow the king, because now the king's been murdered. He died after they got back, so obviously somehow it's their fault.
Right.
So my question,
they're on the Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Is that too much? Is there a way to do it better?
I mean, it sounds like a really awesome plot thread. It's a good campaign arc. For someone who's going or wanting to be convinced to go from 4th to 5th, I don't know how play by text is going to work with something with a 4E engine. Because typically in my mind's view, if you're wanting to play 4th, it's because you really embrace the tactical side of the miniature war games or tabletop role playing. It's those minute features and manipulations that happen on the battlefield that are effective, and that can be done in 5th edition. It's just the wording is different and what have you. So those kind of players, if you can make sure that aspect of the game is incorporated, the rule set that you're actually using isn't a problem. It's that you want to make sure you draw attention to and draw their eyes to. 5th edition, in my opinion, has taken the best of every single previous edition and put it into one book. And we've said this on our videos many times. So I mean that's what I would highlight to those players, and find a way to make this be tactical for them to get them completely convinced and drawn in. But I mean, the plot line is fairly solid, and I wouldn't plan too much in advance, because you don't want to over plan and have the players go in a completely opposite direction. What if they decide that they want to team up with the slot and be their minions, as opposed to actually thwarting it? And I've in years past I've made this mistake as a DM, and I've put people on a very railroad heavy game, and my experience since then has learned to let me just do a lot more improv. Let me do minute planning and focus on this session and the next one, so that I'm aware of what they're going to want to do as opposed to what I want them to do.
Well, and so I like the plot with this is because basically the first foes are going to be just servitors of the state, like guards and things like that, and like spies and assassins that are basically just trying to do the will of the crown, because these PCs, these adventurers, these murder hobos have been implicated in killing the king. So, and then from there, you have to trickle in the sort of, it's basically an alien invasion plot line, which is cool. I like it. It gets a little sci-fi, which is neat. I mean, really, you could get as sci-fi as you want, like put some things that have like a Stargate sort of aesthetic on this magical island. Since like the Stargate SG-1 culture type of stuff, like it might even be interesting to kind of like flavor them like that a little bit. Your Slaudai.
You might even use literal, the stuff from Aliens. You could alter the rules that the slotty eggs have the ability to explode when they hatch, and cause some of that acid damage. Adding some of those flavors to really make them be that much different from the humans and humanoids of your world could make them be that much more terrifying.
Well, I was going to accelerate the slotty gestation a little bit, but make them a little bit more threatening. because I think it's a little bit too long. I think these players would catch on too quickly.
Right.
So I need to accelerate.
Although they might be too busy. They might be too busy running away, though. Well, yeah, like they might be too busy running from the servants of the crown first.
Oh no! Oh no!
You can have. Oh, we got you still. You're still here.
Still here? Okay. I don't know what happened.
We lost visual,
lost
but
visual.
that's.
Uh-oh.
But we can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no biggie. Yeah, sure. Probably something like that. All right. Do we still have a Chris? I think we still have a Chris.
Looks like he's here. Chris,
Maybe.
you back?
Can I summon the spirit of Chris? Chris, it's going on 9. If he doesn't redial in, let's see here.
Well, we'll give him a minute or two. So the slot idea is really neat. Slot are one of those races that are fairly are RP heavy as well as combat heavy. So I think that's something that you can do a lot with on multiple plot lines.
The thing about the thing about the Slod is like they're one of those monsters that's clearly like that mid-tier and up sort of threat or challenge level.
Right.
Like there's that you like have to wait to really sink into them to be able to use them. And the Slod are that thing that you have to wait. Like if you're running a low-level game, you're kind of relegated to your kobolds, goblins, orcs, other humanoids, and beasts. And then there's series you have to wait quite a few levels before you get to inflict them on the party. So
absolutely.
Okay, so we did firmly lose Chris, but we'll be in contact with him if he has any other questions on his campaign. If if he needs more ideas or anything like that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Wrap this up. But thank you so much to Chris for joining us up on this call, being our first 9 of the NAG member. So until next time, stay nerdy.